The climate and cost of living issues are the focus of the Treasurer's speech to the Economic and Social Outlook Conference in Melbourne today. Joining me now is the Acting Opposition Leader, Sussan Ley. Sussan, great to see you. First of all, we heard from Jim Chalmers. He's warning of more government intervention in order to reach that renewable energy target. Is that something you're surprised by, concerned with? What is it?
I think Labor's energy policy is in tatters, Laura. This is clearly another broken promise. 500 days after being elected, and Labor is admitting that they can't realise their own energy policy. And I'm here in the Hunter. I'm visiting our hardworking resources sector businesses and employees and telling them that we care about their future and we care about the regions that they live and work in. But what they would have heard from Jim Chalmers this morning is yet another hands in the air, I give up, and we're going to be looking for subsidies, private investment, a whole complicated mix of policies that everyone knows will not work.
Well, what will work
so
then?
they haven't
you guys have signed up to
and they haven't
this,
acknowledged
net zero by 2050. So isn't that exactly what is needed? Is subsidies and private investment?
We have. And we know that you have to take care along the way not to crash our businesses and industries, to have renewable, affordable baseload power at the centre of what you're doing. So they're pointing to 2050, Laura, but remember, they've got a completely unrealisable goal of 82% of renewable electricity in the grid by 2030. It's almost as if they don't even want to mention that, but by acknowledging, as they pretty much have, that they won't reach that, that is sending a terrible message to these communities and indeed communities who rely on resources. But it's not just those, it's the whole Australian population facing a cost of living crisis with a government that is saying they don't know what to do about your skyrocketing energy bill, and that their own energy policy is effectively a broken promise. So we have a clear pathway that doesn't commit to something as impossible as 82% of renewable energy grid. And right here, you know, you have Port Stephens, offshore wind farms, upsetting communities, not consulting. Look, it is a mess, and this is what happens when you have a Treasurer with a PhD in politics, not economics.
Yeah, sure, but you say you've got a clear pathway. I've got to say, it's not clear at all. There's quite a bit of opacity in that. And we've had Tony Abbott, former Prime Minister, overnight say essentially that climate science is a cult. He never believed in it, and net zero is completely unachievable. So is that just the musings of a former PM, or is he wrong? Do you agree with what he's saying?
What we've said is we commit to net zero by 2050. Peter Dutton has made that clear. Now, you ask what we would do differently. We would do gas differently. So this government has demonised gas. They have added risk to any gas investment in this country, which will push it offshore. We would de-risk investment. We would absolutely focus on gas as a transition energy source to reduce emissions, to put us on a pathway that actually backs in our industries. I mean, I'm in manufacturing businesses and small businesses across this country every day, and the first thing they point to me, or the second after their workforce, is their energy bill. And we can't have businesses close because of government policy on energy when when there are alternatives. So it's just broken promise after broken promise, and a cost of living crisis that Anthony Albanese now says today is almost his top priority, and it's taken him 18 months to realise this.
All right, I want to ask you, look, I've got to give you credit. You're holding the fort at the moment. You've got 8 of your front bench colleagues overseas at a Conservative conference. What's going on there? Well, politicians, colleagues travel and listen to ideas. We're in the most interconnected world, whether it becomes around politics, conservative ideas, liberal ideas. So of course people should be travelling, and they should be listening, and they should be participating in such conferences. And I'm very happy to be here on the ground in the Hunter, and I'm very happy to be doing what I like doing best of all, Laura, which is getting out of a high-rise building somewhere in the city, or even a low-rise building in my hometown of Albury, important though that is, and just talking to communities. So good on
to
you.
have that opportunity to hear directly from them is what gives us the strength that will
input into great policy for the future when it comes to the choice Australians will make at the next election.
Yeah, absolutely. I asked you that because I think it's important to point out that, you know, Paul Fletcher, among others in your party, have been saying Anthony Albanese shouldn't be travelling to the US or China, calling him Airbus Albo. It's a bit rich, isn't it?
We wish the Prime Minister well when he goes overseas. The critical thing, and you mentioned his visit to China, is how he demonstrates what is important to Australia on that visit. And as I said yesterday, and others have also, the human rights issues around Dr. Yang should not be the price of a ticket to Beijing. It is so vital that front and centre, the human rights issues of Australian citizens like Dr. Yang, who is detained in China, are made very, very clear by Anthony Albanese. So, yes, of course, we wish him well on another overseas visit, but my goodness, there are problems here at home, and I'm not sure that he or his Treasurer has a clue what to do about them. They're both appearing, I think, at conferences today, and when I read reports of what they're going to say, I think the average Australian would throw their hands up in helplessness and say, does this government not get it? They're out of touch with what's going on in my life, with my cost of living, with Christmas approaching, with a forecast that mortgages are going to go up at least once, if not twice, between now and then. And we've got the IMF warning of that. So it's tough times, Laura.
Yeah, it certainly is. I just want to, I mean, it seems like a bit of hypocrisy calling him Airbus Albo. I'm looking at a tweet here from Paul Fletcher saying he's cancelled a week of sittings so he could jet off to the US. I mean, it seems like it's making it sound like it's a frivolous holiday to the US. In fact, it was a state dinner with Joe Biden, while you've got 8 of your frontbenchers in the UK at the moment. It's a bit rich, is it not?
Well, he has cancelled. He has cancelled a week of sittings. He did that last minute. He gave the Parliament almost no notice. It's probably because he doesn't trust his deputies to be in charge while he's away.
You don't think it was for a pretty good reason to go to the US to meet with the President?
Yes, but why would you leave that cancellation to the last minute? And he also went overseas and left Richard Marles, his deputy, in charge once before. It is possible for the deputy to be in charge.
It certainly is. And Sussan Ley, we appreciate your time this morning. Enjoy Muswellbrook, great part of the world.
Thanks,
we'll
Laura.
see you soon.